Hello, this is Jana, and I'm here with a creation myth from ancient Greece. A creation myth is a story that explains how the world began. For instance, in the Bible, we hear that the first humans were called Adam and Eve, and they lived in the Garden of Eden. Well, the Greeks don't have a name for the first man, though they do say he was created by a godlike being called Prometheus. But they do have a name for the first woman, Pandora, which means she who has all the gifts. Listen on to find out more. Long, long ago, before humans walked the earth, the world was watched over by Gaia, the Earth Mother of all things, and Uranus, the Sky Father. These were the first gods. They were the elements who did not just make the world, they were the world. These first gods gave birth to a race called the Titans, who looked like humans, only they were giants who had superpowers. Uranus, the Sky God, was afraid of his children, fearing they might rebel against his rule. To keep his throne safe, he imprisoned them beneath the surface of the earth, where all they could do was rage and shake the ground. Now Gaia, the earth goddess, loved her children and wanted to set them free. To help them, she made a sickle. Imagine a shiny, sharp blade, curved like a crescent moon. She placed this sickle into the hands of her eldest and strongest son, Kronos. Holding the sickle high, Kronos cried out, "Revolution!" and led the Titans up to the surface of the world. There, he did battle with his father Uranus, and with one powerful strike, he wounded him terribly, defeating him. Uranus limped off the scene, and now the Titans ruled the world. They in turn gave birth to a third generation of gods. Their names may be familiar to you: Zeus, son of Kronos, Hera, Apollo, and Athena, among others. These young gods made their home on top of Mount Olympus and were known as the Olympians. But before too many eons had gone by, the wheel of fortune turned once more. Zeus led a counter-revolution against Father Kronos and the Titans. A great civil war called the Titanomachy erupted, in which the Titans fought the Olympians and fathers fought sons. In the end, Zeus and the young Olympian gods emerged victorious. They cast the Titans down into eternal darkness, known as the Abyss. But two of the Titans had stayed out of the war and received mercy. The two Titans who were spared were named Prometheus and Epimetheus, meaning forethought and afterthought. Prometheus and Epimetheus each had their own unique qualities. Prometheus was wise and thoughtful, always planning ahead, while Epimetheus was impulsive, often acting without thinking things through. In fact, the only wisdom that Epimetheus ever learned came from his own mistakes. Zeus, the king of the Olympian gods, ordered Prometheus and Epimetheus to populate the earth with mortal creatures. And so they set about creating creatures out of clay. Epimetheus made a nice collection of animals, from elephants to cows to humans. The goddess Athena breathed life into them. Meanwhile, his brother Prometheus made human beings. He lovingly crafted them into upright shapes that walked on two legs, just like the gods themselves. However, unlike the gods, humans were small, puny, and helpless creatures, more worthy of pity than reverence. Epimetheus gave each of his animals special gifts. He gave the birds their wings, the fish their ability to swim, and the lions their mighty roars. But by the time he finished, Epimetheus realized he had used up all the special gifts. which meant that the most remarkable thing about the humans was that they lacked any gifts at all. In fact, they were the most useless of all the living things. Prometheus had to change that. He saw the animals that his brother had made. For instance, the cow that enjoyed chewing on grass, and the dog that loved to yap. And he had an ambition to create something far more interesting. He said to himself, "My human beings shall burn inside with a hunger for knowledge that sets them apart from any other animal." He had in mind a heavenly gift, the gift of fire to light up the darkness and make the hearts of humans burn with passion, anger, love, and thirst for knowledge. But there was one problem. Zeus had ruled that divine fire was reserved for gods. He did not want any other creatures to rival the gods for creativity and passion. Prometheus, however, was determined. One night, he climbed up to Mount Olympus, home to the gleaming palace of the gods. He crept inside the palace and approached the sacred hearth where an eternal flame burned. From the fireplace of the gods, he took a glowing ember and hid it inside a hollow reed. Silently, he descended from Olympus and brought the fire down to earth, where he gave it to his humans. They delighted in this wonderful gift and used it to cook meals, forge tools, and keep warm. With light and fire, they gained knowledge, and they began to build civilizations. These were wonderful times for humans. They had everything they needed, nothing to kill or die for. They lived only in peace. But it was not long before Zeus saw the fires burning on earth and smelt the smoke rising from human homes. He realized that he had been robbed, and his suspicion immediately fell on crafty Prometheus, the creator of the humans. He thundered,
"You delight that you deceive me, but not for long. Your humans shall pay the price of suffering in return for the stolen gift of fire."
First, Zeus gave Prometheus his own special punishment. He chained him to the side of a remote cliff, where he was beaten by the weather and the waves. But even then, Zeus was not satisfied with the suffering of Prometheus. So each day, he sent an eagle to peck at his liver and cause him more pain. Even then, Zeus was not done with his revenge. He had sworn to punish mankind too. This is how he fulfilled his terrible plan. He ordered Hephaestus, the worker god, who used a hammer and an anvil to create the first woman. He was to make her out of earth and seawater. Hephaestus fashioned a lovely being, and the other gods gave her special gifts. Aphrodite gave her beauty and the face of a divine goddess. Athena gave her quick wits and cunning plans, and Hera gave her golden ornaments and gorgeous dresses. And finally, Hephaestus gave her his own evil gift, a sense of entitlement, which meant that she believed the world owed her everything just because she was beautiful and smart. Zeus called this woman Pandora, she who has all the gifts. She had everything good, all except a good heart. And Zeus had yet one more gift for this lovely creation. He gave her a mysterious jar and warned her never to open it. Hermes brought Pandora down to earth and presented her to King Epimetheus, who immediately fell in love with her. Epimetheus was, you might recall, the brother of Prometheus, and was noted for acting in haste and repenting at leisure. Epimetheus, in his foolishness, forgot the words of his wise brother, that he should never accept a gift from Zeus. but should always send it back. He could not help himself. Pandora was too beautiful. He immediately asked Pandora to marry him, and she agreed. It was a decision he lived to regret. Some time after she was married and living a perfect life in the palace, she became restless and bored with her married bliss.
"The gods gave me as a gift to Epimetheus,"
she said to herself.
and he couldn't believe his eyes. He had never seen any living being as beautiful as me. But has he shown his gratitude? No. He soon forgot how lucky he was to have me. And now I am neglected and overlooked. But I know what I can do. I have this jar given to me by Zeus. It's mine, and I have a right to open it and enjoy all the divine gifts that are inside of it. So that's exactly what I shall do.
Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened the jar. As soon as she had lifted the lid, a tornado of evils and sorrows that had been trapped inside rushed out. Pandemics, envy, greed, and more. Thousands, no, millions of troubles spread around the world and infected the hearts of every human. Thus, the life of humans changed profoundly, for the worse. No more leisure. Instead, humans had to toil in the hot sun to grow their food. No more peace. Instead, humans fought wars against one another. No more long life. Instead, humans grew old and sick and senile. Terrified, Pandora quickly closed the jar, but it was too late. From that day on, humans experienced suffering. Suffering is the punishment that Zeus has given to humankind because we enjoy the stolen gift of fire, a gift that was meant to be reserved for the gods. Only one property remained inside Pandora's jar: hope. Hope was all that humans had left. Some might call it foolishness. Some might call it the emotion that keeps us going. But humans always live in hope that one day life will get better and suffering will come to an end. And that was the story of Pandora, the first woman. We also heard about Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods. These stories were written down by a Greek poet called Hesiod, who lived around 700 to 800 years before the birth of Christ. Hesiod was a shepherd. One day when he was watching his sheep on Mount Helicon, he came across the Muses. Or at least, that's what he claimed. The Muses were the 9 goddesses of inspiration. They were believed to give poets, musicians and artists the creativity and wisdom to produce their works. When Hesiod met the Muses, they inspired him to tell stories about the gods, heroes, and everyday life. So when we read about Pandora and Prometheus, we're not just hearing exciting tales, but we're also connecting with a part of human history and culture. We very much hope you enjoyed this story, and will join us soon for more at storynori.com. From me, Jana, bye for now.
Hello, this is Richard, and Bertie's asked me to read you a story from ancient Greece about a musician who used his sweet voice to charm his way down to the underworld. The underworld was where the ancients believed the souls of the dead lived, and it was rather unusual for a living human to visit its gloomy regions. His name was Orpheus, and Bertie has written this story about him in verse. I speak of a man of sweet honeyed melody, whose lovesick heart had no remedy but to travel to where none before, save sad souls who live no more, have been and seen and ne'er come back. The land of death where all is black. But where we start is under the sun of ancient Greece, where legends begun. Orphevs his name, and music he made like no other who sang or played. His notes unfold upon the breeze. He woos the birds, he charms the trees. No living thing is quite immune when Orphevs plays his tender tune. His skill commands the strings of the lyre. Under his orders it sings like a choir of love for a woman, Eurydice. Though his tongue was tied in speech, he, as a man who hardly knew her, walked by her side and tried to woo her. Without reply, her pretty head she turned away and no word said. She, 16, a sweet shepherdess. Her heart, not hard, but I tell you no less than 20 suitors she had turned away, for she thought it too soon to see her wedding day. But then he sang, and his sweet voice carried straight to her heart, and soon they were married. Oh, what a wedding! I wish you were there, to join the feast in open air. 1,000 guests, a handful human, the piper god Pan and his crewmen, nymphs and dryads, satyrs and fauns, demigods dancing all over the lawns. Horns and hairs sprout from their faces, for ancient Greece was one of those places perilously populated by peculiar creatures who in modern times don't often reach us. Then gods mingled with mankind, and often offspring they left behind. Back then no one thought it queer to see a girl with a head like a deer, or when out wandering some woodland track, to find a boy with a goatee back. Eurydice smiled and danced and charmed. All who saw her were quite disarmed. Is she mortal, or goddess divine? Oh, too mortal, Eurydice mine. The sweet cicadas in the grass sang their legs off, but none could surpass the melodic magic of the man who outdid all nature as he sang. Orpheus played upon his lyre as love outglowed the sunset's fire. Darkness fell, the dryads danced on, and Eurydice sang and tripped along. The flock of girls ran down to the stream and splashed along the waters clean. The bride lifted up her white wedding hem and hurried along ahead of them. But alack, alas, she did not see the snake that struck beneath her knee. Venom flowed deep from deadly fang, and over the hills the morning bell rang. When Orpheus kissed the lifeless hand, her soul had gone to another land. His lungs gulped air as if to cry, but he could not cry. His eyes were dry. The hills were silent as if for a year. And then he sang a song so sincere, so sad, so simple, so straight from the gut, that all who heard it felt nothing but the sweet sadness of this turning world, where beauty must wrinkle and grow old, that, or in the warmth of youth, grow cold. Men heard it, nymphs heard it, fauns heard it, gods heard it. Down in the depths of Hades, the word it reached the royal ear of the Lord of the Dead, pale-faced Pluto, whom all men dread. He spoke to Persephone, the queen of the hosts, who inhabit the depths where all are ghosts. Dearest, deathly queen, have you heard the ringing music, the lovely sound, the lament which echoes all around the land of the sun and the world of the gloom, for the girl Eurydice, who has met her doom? Yes, my dear, I have heard the cry. Why, he sings, must sweet she die, my young simple shepherdess, who is yet to feel her husband's caress? We doomed death so soon, for it must be so that the mortals feel their share of woe. But now I regret it, I feel it's not fair, that a voice of such beauty be filled with such care. And so it was, Orpheus sang by the river. The Styx it is called. It causes a shiver, for it flows over ground, then down beneath to the land that's guarded by the teeth of Cerberus, the three-headed dog of death. When you breathe no more, you smell his breath. While Orpheus sang, a boat came by, propelled by a wind that sounded like a sigh. The ferryman offered to carry him along to where none who lives can linger long. So down to Hades Orpheus went, the first living man who there was sent. And when the dog who guards the gate growled to him that he must wait till death deals its dreadful blow, he sang back, "No, no, no." Only he sang it so sweetly, so piteously, so sadly, that the dog rolled the rock back only too gladly. And the music man entered the gates of hell, the place where we all must one day dwell. And there Orpheus met the ghost of his mother. He tried to hug her, but could only recover a fleeting, empty, insubstantial thought of she who had loved him since he was naught. And then he was granted an audience before the Queen of Death, whom all hold in awe, she whose heart does not beat, save once, when she heard a musician entreat a sentimental lament to reverse the law that has held in thrall all before. No ordinary musician, but Orpheus he, who moved to pity Queen Persephone. I grant your wish for your wedded wife, that she should return back to life. You may lead her up to the trail to light, but not once must you take in the sight of she who faithfully follows your way. Do not look back, or she shall stay. So spoke Persephone, and Orpheus heard, and he agreed to her every word. He set off back to the world of life, playing a love song for his longed-for wife. She followed happily, 20 paces behind, but Orpheus fell victim to his artistic mind. To be ruled by reason he was never meant. Impulse and passion made up his temperament. The journey was long, and the way was steep. Far too far for Orpheus to keep his promise to she who is queen of always, who when she speaks means what she says. He wavered, you see. He suspected a trick. He worried himself until he was sick. Perhaps the queen had given her word only to make him look absurd. What if his wife had lost the track? He could not help it. He looked back. Goodbye, my sweet, adieu, adieu. I only gave my love to you. So sang his wife, Eurydice, a simple, sad, sweet melody. And Orpheus took his beloved lyre and threw it upon the furious fire. And that was the end of the musician's song. And though his life was painfully long, he no more sang to humankind, for lack of the love he left behind. And that was the story of Orpheus, loosely based on texts by the Roman poets Ovid and Virgil. I'll be back with some more stories soon at storynori.com. For now, from me, Richard Scott, bye-bye.